Abdul.
Yes, hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Yes, I'm fine. How about yourself?
Good, good.
Great. Looking nice.
Thank you. I have a fairly complex background, but it's good to have these visual backgrounds these days with all that's going on in the world of the virus. So yep.
Yes, it's great. I'm also making you the host, so that
Okay.
you can share your screen as well.
Yeah, great.
Yes. So you are host now, I believe.
Yes, I can see this screen share.
Yeah.
Um, how many
And
people do we have? Oh, we got people joining. 7.
uh, we have more than 100 parties registrations, and
Oh,
the
great.
people are joining. Yes, the people are joining. So it is 11:57 here, and we have asked for the 12. So the people are joining. Yes. So how is the pandemic situation over there?
Oh, look, it's still we're in stage what they call stage 3 lockdown. So we can go out, but only for exercise and for food and medical purposes or essential travel,
Okay.
or essential services. But yeah, it's getting worse, I guess. There's a flattening of the curve, but the community transfer is increasing. Most of the infections have come from overseas, so that's
Yeah.
now stopped. There's a downward trend, but in total, but not necessarily in local transfers, and that's the biggest concern. So the local transfer is where the problem will lie.
Okay. So actually, we have thank you, dear participants, for joining us. There are some mics that are on. Kindly mute your mics. So okay. So Lance, in Pakistan, the situation is approximately same. We are getting the number of cases on increasing sides, and yes, we are in lockdown. Offices are normally closed, other than the pharmaceutical and the other necessities of life, and
But
we are
can you
also
exercise? Can you go outside and exercise?
it is it is partial lockdown, not a full lockdown, not a curfew. Yes, we can. I believe this the exercise are on in homes only. I believe
Yeah.
because normally there are forces, the police and the army over outside, um, so that they can stop the people to restrain in homes.
Right.
Yes. So, uh, so how is the professional journey going on before this pandemic?
Sorry, the what? The professional
Professional journey.
the
Mhm.
professional journey.
Yes, working with the FMI and model citizen.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. So look, I guess before the virus was around, I was doing lots of overseas travel, and
Okay.
local travel as well. Very much in the data analytics and Power BI space,
Okay.
and sort of educating accountants and finance professionals about the power of Power BI and the usefulness of that. And then, we do a bit of financial modeling training as well, but definitely there was a big interest. There's been a big uptake in Power BI specifically, and lots of questions about how do you literally, even the other day, I got a message on LinkedIn saying, oh, their view on Power BI, it's just a reporting tool, and not really relevant for modeling. And
Hmm.
I said, look, um, yes, that was my own view probably 2 years ago, but as I'm going to
Okay.
demonstrate today, Power BI with Excel or with any other tool, and you are able to do forms of modeling and very quickly. We're not just talking predictive modeling, just normal financial modeling, and then displaying it in an interactive dashboard, which is pretty powerful. So yeah, it's I was doing a lot of face-to-face workshops. We had a few projects that were running, and so the face-to-face workshops got obviously postponed, in some cases cancelled, and we had a major project suspended as well. So hopefully that'll come back post the virus, but at the same time, I think every business has had its challenges, but we're finding that now with everyone coming online and working from home, that there's been an uptick and an interest in financial modeling, particularly during these times when it's uncertain. So this will be my third webinar
Yes.
in 2 weeks, and I was on a podcast the other day. I'm doing almost more online podcasts and webinars now than I've ever done.
Yes,
So
I, I was listening your webinar with the Daniel as well.
yes,
Yes.
yeah. So look, because I have the spare time, and we're also building models and we're sharing models for free and heavily discounted as well. So
Okay.
people can learn from the content that we're producing, and so we're seeing it as an opportunity to really engage um, with professionals, including the FMI. I think Lexicon's also an approved trainer for the FMI. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes. We are the approved trainer for the FMI. Yes, and
Yeah.
in the last email we also have given our course, the Certified Financial Modeler. I believe that was on the list of the FMI that they have shared last week, in
Yeah.
this week. Yes, yes. So I believe we have some participants, and participants are joining our session. Let's start. So let me introduce, first of all, thank you participants who have spared their valuable times for joining our today's session. And I'm also thankful to Lance Robin, who spared his valuable time to share his insights with us today. Let me briefly introduce about Mr. Robin. Mr. Lance is a qualified chartered accountant from Australia, that is no CAANZ, and from South Africa. Actually, he had been a CFO for multi-million-dollar company, and currently he is engaged with the Financial Modeling Institute Canada and Model Citizen, and he has more than 2 decades of experience in financial modeling, data analytics, and Power BI. He is approved and authorized trainer for Financial Modeling Canada, Data Deer, Data Deer Experts, and A plus certified Modano Modeler. So thank you, Lance, for your time today. We have very energetic participants in our list today. So thank you for your insights. I would also like to request to briefly introduce yourself before starting the session.
Sure. Thanks, Abdul, and thanks everyone, and thanks for the messages as well. And I really hope everyone is safe and at home, and spending time with family. I think there's one thing that's positive about the virus is the ability to spend more quality time with your family and your loved ones that are in your house, and then also spend some quality time with people overseas in
Yeah.
wonderful webinars like this. And it's great to be able to sort of take time to do that. And so, thanks everyone for jumping on. Thanks, Abdul, for reaching out and giving me an opportunity to talk. I do enjoy sort of sharing some of the knowledge and the experiences that I've built over the years, and equally share some of the models and the content that we're producing. And now that we're in lockdown in Australia, we're doing a lot more. So I just want to, Abdul, I just want to just touch on a couple of things that you said. So I qualified as a chartered accountant in South Africa and Australia at the CAANZ, but I'm technically not registered at the moment. I'm getting re-registered. I actually moved away from the institute because I didn't see it was moving fast enough. But now I'm sort of doing work with them and looking to get re-registered. And yeah, the Banjo was a fintech startup that I was the CFO for, and I was part of the KPMG modeling team. Can someone just mute? Sorry, Umar, can you
Umar
mute,
Farouk,
or
kindly mute your
has ever
mic,
got?
kindly. Umar, kindly mute your mic. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, so I think the, the key thing that I want to go through today, you know, I've spent over 2 decades in big banks and investment bank. Investec was where I learned a lot of financial modeling. I spent almost 7 years in NAB, the National Australia Bank. Abdul, I've just muted Umar myself, so I'll just mute if it comes off. Spent a lot of time in corporate and investment banking, and then started my own business, Model Citizen, just over 4 years ago, to really leverage technology. So what we're going to cover today, and I'm just going to get my screen now. So can everyone see that? Can everyone see my screen? Yep. Yes. Great. Thanks. I'll have the chat window up. So what we're going to cover today is one of the most exciting innovations in, good point. Can people turn off their videos as well for those that are not presenting or talking? It's just a bit distracting for me as well. Thanks, Mo. So I think, you know, one of the big changes that Microsoft Excel have brought out is dynamic arrays. If you need to check your Microsoft Microsoft Office subscription, if you're on the monthly track, so that's not the insider channel. I don't have the insider channel. I just have a monthly update. You know, you can check what your account is by looking here about Excel, as I'm doing here, and you can see here monthly channel. So if you're on the monthly channel, then you will have access to dynamic arrays. If you're on a semi-annual or annual, or if you're on previous versions of Excel, you know, 2017, or even you know, earlier, dynamic arrays will not work on your machine. So you know, the formulas are very different. You'll see when I show you some of them, and the structure is very different. It'll actually just have errors everywhere. So if you think about, you know, for those that are familiar with arrays, it's sort of a table-based approach. So I'm going to take you through this financial model that we built. This financial model we will make available at a heavy discount. It's going to be, it's already hosted on Eloquence, but we give participants of this webinar an 80% discount on this model. So if you want to have a look at it and play with it, you certainly can. And Abdul, I'll share that discount code with you so you can share with the participants later. But really what we're going to do is we're going to look at Excel, but we're also going to look at Power BI. So why am I doing these together? Because the power of, no, this is not Excel 2017. It's not available in previous versions, Wasim. You have to be on Office 365. So 2017 won't. This is Office 365. Again, I'll just quickly show you. If you're unsure which version you're on, sorry, go to File, Account, you know, Microsoft Office 365. So you need to be on the Office 365 to be used. And no, it's not available in the previous versions. So the reason I'm doing dynamic arrays in Power BI is because it's extremely powerful calculation and expansion. So what I'm going to quickly do is just take through this financial model. It's it's an income statement model with some debt as well. So there's aspects of balance sheet. It's not a full three-way, but it does have a scenario manager and Monte Carlo simulation. So it is fairly advanced for traditional modeling. And it has an executive summary and some dashboards. There's a distribution curve. There's a management pack, a management dashboard, so you can see various dashboards as well. But the key thing about this model is the structure firstly. So there's a table of contents. You'll notice that you can hyperlink and jump anywhere. All of where it says dynamic, this area is dynamic. What that means is that the model can expand and contract in time periods and vertically and horizontally. So I'll show that in a second. So then down here we have the Power BI export. So we're exporting the data out of Power BI in this table format. So right now we have 48 periods, which is 4 years. So we have, if I go to my time series, and if you've got any questions, just put your hand up or put it in the chat. I'm happy to answer as we go. So the time series here, it's a 48 period model, so 48 months. It is a monthly model as opposed to an annual model. But the power of dynamic arrays means we can actually change this model to be 48 months, 48 years, just by changing that. So I'm just going to quickly show you the current model, and then we're going to be dynamic, and then I'm going to change this quicker than Usain Bolt runs the 100-meter, right? So we're going to do things that you simply cannot do in native Excel without dynamic arrays. So if I jump to Power BI, for those that have used Power BI, we're getting that data is coming in through Power Query. If I just click on the transform data, you can see the two queries that are running through. We've done some transformations, and then that's all coming through to here. So this is the 4 years, 2020, 21, 22, 23. So if I click any one of these or a combination of these, all of these visuals update. So, margin, ratios, they all update live, which is what's amazing with Power BI. The other thing is I have, these also, when I hover over tooltips. So in Power BI, you can build tooltips, which is effectively these additional charts that sit behind and therefore sit on top of this information. So if you want to see how does that revenue compare to prior year, so actual versus prior year and the percentage movement, we can just hover over each of these and that all updates, which is pretty powerful. And this is using some of the Power BI visuals from Zebra BI. So I've used a couple of really cool tricks here. And you'll see from my visualizations, I have a couple of extra visualization icons as well. So that's the one dashboard, which is just looking at revenue, COGS, gross margin, other revenue, and NPAT. This is on an amount basis. If I want to select all, I can over the periods. And then really here, I've got the percentage as well over those periods. And I can see these indicators. So if I want to see between, 2 periods, I can, and I just select those different ones. The next tab is the KPIs, and the same thing. And we see some margins and some dials, and this is using some extra infographics, which is really useful, and looking at the different percentages. Again, I can select, let's see 2021, what was our margin in that year compared to 2022? And we can see all of that update live. And then we have our simulation. So we want to visualize all of this. So we have a Monte Carlo simulation. We've run 5,000 simulations. And I'm going to go back into Power BI, back into Excel, sorry, and actually show you where the 5,000 is. We're then going to flip it and we're going to change that, and then it's going to update Power BI as well. So this is the distribution curve. And so you can see the average enterprise valuation is about 12 mil, which is about here. So if you look at that distribution curve, that looks about right. The maximum is about 23, which is this one down here. So 23.6. And then you have again, your average gross margin. Now, this is the distribution curve of those valuations, but now looking at the gross margin. And so if I want to look at this average in the middle, I can see what my gross margin percentage is. I can see what the maximum valuation here, it's 11.6, and all of these are updating. This is for 562 simulations. So if I want to be really, just a quick question to everyone, is everyone familiar with the term Monte Carlo simulation? So just for those that are not, yes, no. Okay, so I'll take a step back. Monte Carlo simulation, if you think about it, I'm going to go back to Excel because it's probably the easiest way to explain it. So a few yeses and a few nos. Looks like more nos. Sorry, can we please mute those that are on the other line? Monte Carlo simulation, where are we going to go in? We're going to go into the scenario summary. So I assume everyone is familiar with a scenario, right? Everyone knows what a scenario is, correct? So a scenario is a collection of different assumptions. A sensitivity is one of these. So if you say, well, how sensitive is a business to interest rate or volume or price changes, then you have multiple assumptions that are changed at the same time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select different sensitivities and scenarios by just changing this drop down. So I'm going to go from scenario A to scenario B. And when I do that, all of these numbers are updating. The valuation, and also you see the heading changes to scenario B, and all the financials change. So when I'm changing all of these, it's pretty powerful. So this is what's called a scenario manager and a summary. But for simulation, I don't know what these numbers are. So in the case of where I can have an estimate, but really the reality is there's lots more variables. So what about randomly generating assumptions between a range? So that's what this is. This is randomizing between these two items a percentage. And if I change this drop down to Monte Carlo simulation and I push F9, then you'll see all of these numbers changing. You'll see these numbers are going to be, this number here is going to be between 5 and 10%. So every time I'm changing this, if I go to my dashboard, let's go to my management dashboard, and I want to see revenue. And as I'm changing this, this is changing. So a simulation is doing this many, many times. Right now, I'm only doing it every time I talk. So if I go to my executive summary, again, all of these numbers are changing. What the valuation is, what sales are. If I want to go to my annual income statement, so let's go to the annual income statement and I push this, all of these numbers change. So this is called a simulation, but I want to run this many, many times. So right now in this model, there's 5,000. So if we go back to Power BI, we can see there's 5,000. Where's that being calculated? If I go to my Monte Carlo outputs and I go to the right, I can see my 5,000. I'm going to column GJP, right? For the 5,000 simulation. So what this is doing is it's using a dynamic array. So what you'll notice with dynamic arrays is do some weird stuff. The first thing is the way that the formula is structured is quite different. And it starts using rand array, other sort of functions that you don't. But the moment I go to the right, you see it gets gray. See how the formula goes dark to gray. Now, dynamic arrays means that you're writing the same formula and it pushes itself out, based on how many times that's going to work. So there's no way of breaking this formula. It's automatically calculating on a consistent basis, and there's no references. There's no relative or absolute reference in a dynamic array. And so each of these have that, and it's picking up. That's how many times that formula is going to be replicated. So it automatically generates that array based on the 5,000. what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change 5,000 to 100. Push enter. And look how quick that is. If I go back here, straight away, this has gone to 100 in seconds, less than a second. It did that. Now, if I want to go Control S and I want to save this model, I then go back into Power BI and I click refresh. And this is refreshing the model. So now that's only 100 simulations. So now you can see that distribution curve is not so normal. It's sort of a bit patchy. So that's why when people doing simulations, they tend to do a lot more. So 100 simulations is probably not big enough. All of these other numbers have also changed, but for the moment, I'm just focusing on the simulations. If we go back and we want to change this to 10,000. So if you want to write this in VBA and run 10,000 simulations, 10,000 simulations in a VBA code can take you probably 5 to 6 minutes, if not longer. But we're going to run 10,000. Watch this. 10, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to push enter, right? 1, 2, 3. Not even 3 seconds. In 3 seconds, it's calculated 10,000. If I go to the right, look at that. I'm on NTX. It's calculated each of these 10,000 times, which is just mind-blowing. Quick Excel file. And actually, if I go in to see the size of this file, it's about 75 meg. So the file size will rapidly grow. Let's click refresh. And now we're going to go and refresh this model. And now we're going to see 10,000 simulations. So now we get back to that. So that's one application of dynamic arrays, is the use of it in Monte Carlo simulation. So the ability to change the simulation really quickly with a very, very fast calculation speed, quicker than VBA, is amazing. And when I first saw this, I thought, this is something I really have to show people. So let's go back to this model. So if we change this now to this time series, change this from a monthly model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just show you. There's an income statement. There's a monthly income statement. So you can see here, this is going out 48 months. There's 48 months in this model. This is the annual income statement. So there's only 4 periods. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this model from a monthly model to an annual. So we're going to make this 48 years as opposed to 48 months. Watch this, right? You literally can't do this easily in Excel without having very, very complex formulas. The formulas are not that complex in terms of their length. Yes, they're complex in terms of the way they're structured, but they're not really complex. Now I'm going to change this to annual. So now we've changed this entire model to an annual model. So now I'm going to, there, and now it's finished. So now I go back to, it's busy calculating, right? And now we have, oh, it's still running. So these are now annual years: May, June, July, August. You know, if we go back, let's save this model. I think it's still calculating actually. Okay, December 20, yeah. So now this is 48 years. So December 67, yeah, from December 20. All right. And then the monthly is going out as well to December 67. So now I'm going to save this model. So I've made this model 48 years long. And if I go back to Power BI and I go back to this first tab, so here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Now I'm going to click refresh, and Uh, is it going to end soon, the Zoom? I think it's still trying to refresh. Anyway, let me take this back. The machine's struggling a little bit with the webinar at the same time. Let's go back to the time series. Let's go change this back to monthly, but we're going to make this 60 months. So let's just let that drivers for my model. See, here's my drive. This is products A to G. So if I look at my income statement and my revenue, so for my volume, I have products A to G. For my price, A to G. Cost of goods, A to G, A to G. You can see the A to G and it's going all the way across. So now there's 60 periods, right? 12 years. And 5 years. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to add a new product. So dynamic arrays is not only powerful, what I showed you was horizontally over time, but also vertically. So product G, now we're going to add a new product. So I'm going to type in here, new product. So I'm just going to go new product. And I'm going to say 1,000 units, base price is 15, cost is 500. And watch this. Now, sales volume, look at that. There it is. Sales price, new product, there it is. COGS, there it is. So it's updated that across all of those. Gross revenue, there it is. So in a couple of seconds, I've added a new row and it's calculated. Now I'm going to save this model. I'm going to go back to Power BI and I'm going to refresh that. And look at that. See how it's added the extra year. It's added that 5th year, 2024. Before we had only 4 years, and it's added that all the way through. So on all of these numbers, it's added that, and the simulation is still sitting, I think, at the 10,000. So I hope everyone can see one of the reasons why I've brought Power BI alongside Excel into modeling, because really it becomes extremely powerful to spin up, recalculate, and display very, very quickly. Are there any questions that anyone might have? Abdul, you still there?
Hey, yes, I'm here, but I just muted my mic.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. So,
Were there any questions from anyone? I wanted to just open it to the floor. If there's anyone that had any questions on this model, you know, if they want to have a play with it or look at it, we'll send out more details on how to get access to it, and then we'll also share. Prepared. Okay, so I guess Power BI is useful for graphical representation only. That's one aspect of Power BI that is useful. There are other aspects around using predictive analytics and also doing you know, comparisons. So if you want to, I guess, do some, I'm going to open up another model here. Power BI is very powerful for going in and pulling out various different integrating financial and non-financial information. Wasim, we'll send out an email to everyone with links to the various tools. We'll send it through Abdul, and he can share it with everyone.
Sure.
So Power BI is one. It's not just about representing data. It's also about doing some predictive modeling. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. And the challenge with predictive modeling is the fact that you need to have lots of data, and the data needs to be correct. So in a world where we have COVID-19, our historic data is less relevant. So it's going to be more challenging. But the power of Power BI is the fact that we can start doing predictive modeling, and we can use exponential smoothing is one way of doing that, where if I just, I'll just move this over here for a second. So if I click on this, and I use this little icon here, which is the analytics, advanced analytics, I can then do some forecasting here. So I can choose the confidence interval. I can ignore certain points. So you see how the prediction uses the prior data. Here we have, one data point of seasonality. If we want to use 24 data points for seasonality and click apply, then it'll apply seasonality to that curve. If I want to have a forecast length of 48 periods and apply that, I can. So Power BI does have some advanced predictive modeling. So Power BI is extremely powerful for doing forward predictions. And if I want to change this confidence interval, I can. If I want to have a higher confidence interval, then the gray area will certainly expand. Being able to integrate Google Analytics, being able to bring data across other platforms is where Power BI is extremely powerful. So if we want to look at, in this case, analytics around people in Australia, so I click on this, and this is pulling data from Power BI, from the Google Analytics. There's an API, so the way that you can connect through Google Analytics, and you can also connect just through Excel, but you can get data many different ways into Power BI. And that's what I really like about it. Yes, it's for visualization, but it's also in handling and managing data. So you have online resources, you've got Google Analytics, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, SharePoint, databases, files like Excel. We're now using Access database in a client. So we're using Power BI for putting data in and using it in that way, as opposed to doing it in Excel. And so, it's just incredibly powerful. And the interactivity of visuals is really useful as well. So, and then distributing it. So there's Power Apps, and the way that we can distribute, you can, publish. You can publish to Power BI online, and you can also publish through Power Apps where people can, you've got a publish button here as well. And then you use quick measures or DAX to write formulas. And then there's a whole, you can get more visuals from, there's a marketplace and from an app store that you can grab more visuals from. And some of these visuals, for instance, these are not standard in Power BI. This is the infographic designer, which you can then make changes to. So you can choose different icons. And then this icon is interactive. So, yep, sorry, was there a question? So Power BI is also free at Power BI desktop, and to publish and use Power BI Pro, of course, that's when it costs. So, the beautiful thing about this is these tools are available now. They easy to use. Well, not easy, but once you know how, it's easy, I guess. But definitely, they are very powerful, and they're not expensive in terms of technology. Power BI and Excel together, particularly when you're using dynamic arrays, as we were doing in this example. When you start combining the power of dynamic arrays into Power BI, it's truly game changing. I published an article today with Jeff Robson. If you want to learn more about dynamic arrays, definitely have a look at that article. I think we have, if we've actually got a link to, we have a financial modeling app where you got access to all different articles and knowledge. So we'll send a link to this app as well. And down here we have the article on dynamic arrays, which Jeff wrote with me. So Jeff published, and Jeff's actually shared some free dynamic array models as well. So in here, it actually explains dynamic arrays, explains how dynamic arrays are different, building a Porsche with each little piece, or you build it in blocks. And so there's some links in here to other articles, other models, and yeah, we'll do some work. We'll send some of that to Abdul so he can share it all with you. Ibrahim, while doing predictable analysis in Power BI, we can incorporate more than one dimension. By dimension, I mean along with time series and any other variable. Yes, you can. I think, you know, the key thing with Power BI is you have Python and R. So this exponential smoothing, which I showed, let's just go back to that one. So the exponential smoothing here is very basic. When I say very basic, because it really only has that dimension. Here we're predicting number of users, we're predicting revenue, but we're not predicting how number of users impacts revenue, if that makes sense. So it is possible, but certainly you start getting into predictive modeling, you've got to get into Python and R for using those scripts to then make it more complex. So this is just using exponential smoothing, which is just one type of forecasting using data and statistical measures, but there's certainly more, but then that starts going down very much the data science path. Okay, so Abdul, I think we've got a bit more time for more discussion. If there's anything else, if there are any other questions that anyone has on Power BI or on dynamic arrays or Excel or even just financial modeling. One of the other things that we have recently released is another app. So we have this financial modeling knowledge app, I guess, where you've got access to past articles. So I think if you're looking to get better at financial modeling, the history, 40 years in history of spreadsheets, table-based financial modeling is actually a good one to start with if you're trying to understand dynamic arrays. Can we get the recording? Abdul, I assume the recording will be available. I think I've even asked for the recording as well. So I think it will be made available. So table-based financial modeling is probably a good place to start because dynamic arrays, as you saw, is very much table-based. So these driver tables, they're actually tables. And each of these tables, so you can see here table design. So dynamic arrays needs tables, and then it uses tables to really do the arrays and then make that dynamic. So that is a useful article to read. Project finance and other forms of modeling, SAS modeling. But then if you want to learn how to build and understand some of the tips and tricks and user friendliness in modeling, that's certainly useful. The other app we released more recently was our one-way cash flow model app. This is an app, again, we'll send a link to it. It's free. And we actually go through and show our one-way cash flow model. There's a webinar very similar to this one that I did last week, which is available. But you can also look at the dashboards, and you can download some of the dashboards and have a look at them. And then also we have a version tracker. If people find issues, there's no open issues at the moment. We closed an issue. This is my team. And then there's an area for people who can chat if they want to ask questions. So, you know, the management report, again, is another example of what's included in this model. This model is going out for free to a select few people. So we will, Abdul, be giving it to those that attended this webinar as a token of our appreciation for spending the time with us today.
So if anyone has a question, you can ask question for regarding financial modeling, Power BI, the dynamic array, so that we can answer those particular questions.
Website address other than search these apps. So yeah, the website, you know, my I guess Model Citizen is our website. Um, so on the Model Citizen website, we have these articles as well. In fact, a lot of these articles we release, and we also release podcasts and videos. We probably put this podcast, Abdul, into our collection of podcasts.
Good.
And you know, future tools for finance. You know, people can have a look at financial models, and then we have a range of models that we host on Eloquence. The FMI model, we're giving us a 60% discount on this model for people to use. There's some other models that are free. So this debt modeling, which was by the Model Off, is free, and we have a few others that are free as well. So yeah, there's that, and then of course we have all our blogs as well. So my assistant would have updated our blog today on the website, the dynamic arrays, but we've got all the other blogs that we've written as well in the past. So all links to that will definitely provide to that. Yeah, so there are free models, as I've just shown, available in the site. And then you can also go to Eloquence. So Eloquence is a great place to go. And then you can see a range of other models. You know, we host a lot of our models in this website, and there's lots of content here that people share that is free, and there's some quite good stuff as well. You know, here's the one that we just published on the dynamic arrays. Like I said, there's a discount applied to that price, which we're making available to you guys. And yeah, there's a range of other content and various tools and things that are available on Eloquence. So if you haven't seen Eloquence before, it's definitely worth having a look. So let me just quickly write down all those that I shared with you, so you've got it. So one is the app times two. We'll do Eloquence link. I'll actually share a link to my channel in Eloquence, so you can see all the things that we've got. We've got the Model Citizen website. Okay. Ibrahim, so I'm not sure whether this question is related to the session. However, the question is in the case of doing a business valuation for Series A funding for any startup, historical data is not available. How's a financial modeling tool can build adequate valuation? Ibrahim, that's fantastic. That's a great question. So one of the things that, you know, this model is forecast only. So you could use this for a funding round because it actually does have valuation in it. So within the scenario summary, we have a discount rate and an EBITDA multiple. So we can make some assumptions. There's no historical data. So the only data that's in here is forward-looking. So the way you would do it is you would put your different products here, you know, what price or volume, whether there's any other revenue, whether there's any other capex. Quite often in a startup, you know, maybe there's some capex or there's some expenses. You might have an expense base that you're incurring that might change over time. And then you have capital expenditure, fixed assets, and then you might have some debt or equity for that matter. And then also tax and tax rates. And then you can really, to get a valuation, to calculate a valuation, really it's based on your discounted cash flow. So I think here we have the valuation where we take the EBITDA multiple. So this valuation is simply calculated by the discount of the net present value of the future cash flows. And then we have the terminal value as well. So here we've applied an EBITDA multiple and we've discounted that back. So yeah, there's a range of financial modeling tools and techniques, and the FMI as well. The FMI exam, you actually build a model with valuation as well. So so you've got a 3-statement model, and you can work out what the multiples are as well as part of some of the exams there. Thanks, Ibrahim. I know you sent that privately to me, but I thought I'd share it with everyone else because it was a good question. So I think the key thing in financial modeling is very much forward-looking. Yes, the past is important, but what's more important is the decisions of the future. So it's if you think about what financial modeling is, it's the strategy in numbers, right? It's strategic view of the business or of the startup, where it's going, and how does it translate into numbers in a spreadsheet. And that's what financial modeling is. It's important for people to understand that. See, someone just drew on my screen. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so really to understand, how is a business going to operate into the future. So if we go back to this model and we want to sort of change the time series, and then make that 36 months. So it's 3 years. I'll just click that. And then you can have a look at, the impact of that. Let's look at our annual income statement. That's now 3 years. And if we look at our monthly, we should see that coming through as well. Well, there it is, 36 periods. It was obviously hanging out right at the end. So there's 36 months. So, we can change that pretty quickly with dynamic arrays, which is, extremely useful and powerful at the same time. As a wrap up all this, what is the starting point to learn all of these techniques? So Wasim, that's a great question. Where do you start? I know this probably looks a bit overwhelming in terms of all of this. You have to realize I have over 2 decades of experience in financial modeling. So what I've shown you is a little bit of everything, from building 3-way models to Monte Carlo simulation to Power BI. My Power BI experience is about just over 2 years. I started Power BI just over 2 years ago. So I think you have to make a decision where you're going to start. My suggestion would be to start with the basics of financial modeling, not dynamic arrays, just the traditional 3-way modeling. Look at the FMI. There's some free content there. Contact Lexicon, look at their training course for the FMI exam, and that's where you'd start. So I think you can also start by reviewing some of the articles that we've published, either in this app or simply on LinkedIn as well. But the app's quite cool because it's all there for you and you can read it. It links back to LinkedIn anyway. So corporate finance theory is a really good one. So if you want to have a look at that, that was written by David Thompson and myself. So trying to understand corporate finance. The thing with financial modeling, and I wrote an article about this quite a long time ago, financial modeling is many disciplines in one. It's not just about Excel. It's about cash flow. It's about accounting. It's about corporate finance. So the important thing with financial modeling is to be able to understand all those different aspects. So I think definitely the core of financial modeling is being able to build what's called a 3-way financial model, or a 3-statement financial model, which is your income statement, your balance sheet, and your cash flow. And that's what the FMI does. So the FMI exam, you learn how to build a 3-statement model, and then you go from there. So I think it's important to understand how to build a 3-way model, know what a 3-way model is, and then learning how to build a scenario manager. The FMI exam does have a scenario manager. There's only 3 cases. You don't do Monte Carlo simulation, but that's definitely a place to start. So good question, Wasim. Yeah, Ahmed, you got a question?
Any other question from the participants?
So Ahmed, I think you've raised your hand. How do I deal with? How do I give Ahmed? I'll give you. I'll unmute you. How's that? I know you've got your hand up. Unmute. No. Oh, sorry, Usman. Sorry, it wasn't Ahmed. It's Usman. Usman, you got a question there? Share your email ID, sir. Yes, for sure. I'll share it. Not a problem. My address and my details are also contained within these apps. So for sure. Okay. Any other questions? Usman, I'm not quite sure how to. Sorry, Mohammed. You have a question?
Muhammad Azam, kindly mute. Mr. Muhammad Azam, kindly mute your mic. If you have any question, write in the chat box.
Okay, I've muted him. Let me. As if I recall my memory, this Excel-based, very much similar to Medano-based model. Cool stuff. Yes, Asif. So we use Medano a lot, and this model is not built in Medano. Although I do have my Medano ribbon up here. This model is not built in Medano. It looks like Medano. It's built with dynamic arrays. So we use Medano for other three-way models to make it quickly to build, but dynamic arrays don't work within Medano. It's just the way that the system is set up. Medano is also very powerful in expansion, but dynamic arrays does some amazing stuff that is in conflict with Medano. So within the Medano software, they actually turn off the arrays function. Because it's expanding by itself, when you click a few buttons, this Medano does something similar as well. Great, thanks, Asif. Any other questions anyone might have? We've got 5 minutes left. Abdul, did you want to close off or share anything else about Lexicon or what you guys are doing?
Yeah, okay. Thank you everyone for your time. And Mr. Asif is also our approved trainer. Uh, he's FMVA and a very renowned financial modeler. He's based in Saudi Arabia. And what Lexicon is all about, Lexicon is basically an organization approved by Institute of Financial Accountant UK, and we offer different programs that are awarded by Institute of Financial Accountant UK, just like Certified Financial Modeler, Advanced Diploma in Accounting and Finance, and Associate Certified Islamic Banker, and a Certified Financial Leader that we have recently started. So uh, we also provide corporate trainings in-house and public. We started trainings in Islamabad, Karachi, and Lahore as well. So thank you very much, Lance, for your time today. It was a really great session. And thank you for the participants again. If you will have any question, you can contact us as well, or Mr. Lance, model citizen, so that you can get the answer of your questions. And obviously we will be available for any sort of help, any kind of help regarding the financial modeling or the Power BI.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Abdul. So there's a question. Can I share the slides? Well, we don't have slides or the presentation, but we will share links to the information. So yes, Wazim will share a link to where you can purchase the Excel file with a discount. So like I said, we'll definitely share the links to those files. But please make sure that you have the latest Excel updated. Otherwise, the model won't work. You'll actually have errors in it. If you open up that dynamic array model in normal Excel, you'll have a problem. How do I upgrade channel from semi-annual to monthly? You need to talk to your IT, Graham. So I think the latest version, which one? Well, this is the thing with Excel and Office 365. It needs to be Office 365. So in the past, Microsoft had, Excel 2010, 2003. 2003 was the first time I started. Actually, I lie. I started using Lotus 123 and Excel many years ago. And the 2003 version of Excel was where I did a lot of my modeling for investment banking. And the 2003 made a big jump into 2010. So the 2010 version is, and I still have that available. I still use that from time to time because it's very stable. And it's also in the new zipped format. So it's got XLSX, which is XML. So 2010, then it's, I think it's 2013, and I think it was 17, and then maybe 19. But really, you need to have Office 365. So you need to have the Office 365. 2017 was Zim. Does 2017 use dynamic arrays? I don't know whether that. I don't think Office 365 is certainly better. I actually run Excel 2010 and Excel 365 because Excel 2010 is it's actually got less. If I've got a really big model, Office 365 can be quite clunky in terms of its processing. With dynamic arrays, that actually becomes irrelevant. But if I have a big file that really struggles in 2010, is still a very good version of Excel. So I'll go back to just quickly sharing my screen again to show you that I'm not. So I actually have, if you look, I'll just minimize all of this. So if you actually look here on my bar, I've still got Excel 2010. So I use X5, which I was showing you earlier. So what you've got to do is you've got to come to account and you see what's your subscription, and you've got to be on the monthly channel, and that's where you can see Office 365. Which one is the best? So I think 2010 is probably more stable, but and I like it from a calculation perspective, but you can't do dynamic arrays in 2010. So I guess before I started playing with dynamic arrays, I would have said 2010 is the best for me and the models that we build. But the charts, so what we did was we build 2010 models, and then we use 365 for the charts, because the charting is better in 365. But then also you have Power Query. So Office 365 starts getting more advanced when you start using tools like Power Query, which is really powerful. And then of course now dynamic arrays. So I'm slowly moving away from 2010 as being the best, but moving into Office 365. So yeah, I agree, Ahmed. I think Office 365 is the best in terms of all the additional features that you're getting. The dynamic arrays you can't do in any other version, and the charting and Power Query, a lot of that is already embedded in the Office 365 version. Whereas I think in the past you had to use Power Query or Power Pivot as an add-in. You actually had to add it into those Excel versions. In Office 365, it comes within the data tools. Good. Any other final questions before we close out? So thanks again to Lexicon for hosting the webinar. Thanks everyone. Please stay safe and social distancing, and please God, Abdul, when all of this changes, maybe I'll come over to Pakistan to deliver some training with Lexicon.
Yes, yes, you're most welcome. We pray that we get out of this pandemic very soon, and yes, yes, we're waiting to host you in Pakistan.
Fantastic.
So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. I hope you have learned from our today's brief session, and stay in touch with us for to learn more about financial modeling and Power BI. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Lance, for your time.
Thanks, Abdul, and thanks everyone for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.